Hi, my name is Stereo Mike.
Yeah, we got free tickets to the Brand Van concert happening this Monday night at the Pacific Palisades.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the MX News Now podcast. I'm your host, Braden Boot, and today I bring you episode 1 of my new podcast, as previously mentioned, the MX News Now podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to go check us out on Instagram at MX_news_now. Same with Twitter. Check us out on YouTube. You can get all those links from our website, mxnewsnow.wordpress.com. Check out all those places. We post all our articles and just whatever content we're putting out at the moment. You can find it on our website. You can get all our social links there. With that being said, let's get right into it. Let's start talking about the race we just saw last Saturday, round 2 of the Monster Energy Supercross Series in Oakland, California. We'll start off with the 250 class. Once again, similar to Anaheim 1, we saw pure domination from the number 28, Christian Craig. It's seeming really hard to imagine anyone but Craig winning this title, and the only way I see it happening is an injury for Craig, which is not uncalled for. We've seen it plenty of times from him. But I don't see anyone else in this class who can compete with him consistently. There's going to be a race or two where, the track doesn't gel well for Christian, and there will be riders challenging him for the lead. But for the most part, especially on these California tracks, Christian is just heads and tails above all the other guys. He's been fastest qualifier. He's won all his heat races. He's won both main events in dominating fashion. He hasn't even felt pressure yet in any race, and he's had to work his way to the front in a couple heat races and stuff, but he's always the fastest guy, and that's always undeniable. I like seeing it. I'm a Yamaha guy, if you didn't know. And yeah, it makes for a little bit of a boring series, but it'd be cool to see Craig get one at age 30. Something a lot of people will criticize him for, but he's got his reasons. Moving on, second place in the main event was Hunter Lawrence. And if you know Hunter, you know his brother. You know the whole story on the Lawrence brothers. Very charismatic guys. Both ride for HRC Honda's 250 effort. Hunter is the main guy I see being a title threat besides Craig. Like I said, Craig is heads and tails the favorite, but I think Hunter is putting himself in a really good position right now where he can jump on any mistakes Craig were to make. Whether that is, he has to miss a race for something, including, COVID. We've seen guys go out with COVID already this year, which is a whole different topic I'm not going to get into, but yeah, Hunter is in the best spot. Well, he's tied for second right now with Seth Hamaker, who we'll get into, but he's kind of the next guy up if something happens to Christian. A lot of people won't see him as fast as his brother, which may be true. We haven't seen them on the same coast, and we will at the East-West shootouts, but I don't know if that's 100% true anymore. Like, the speed we saw last Saturday from Hunter was amazing. He had to work his way into that second place spot, and he did it. But he's showing the consistency, which is something we haven't seen from Jet in Supercross. Now, obviously, Jet is younger, and that comes with age, but they've had very similar amount of races beneath their belt in Supercross. Hunter came across as a motocross only guy. He was from MXGP, and yeah, he's shown the improvement. He's become consistent in Supercross, it looks like, and he still has the speed. So I think he's kind of my next man up in the championship as well, which he's tied for second, which is perfect for him. Seth Hamaker, on the other hand, is my surprise of the year so far, in a good way. Now, I wasn't expecting too much from Seth, which I should have going in, but he's young, and you don't quite know what to expect. You don't know if some of those good performances were just situational last year, but from what I've seen this year, Seth is definitely going to be a contender from now to come. Like, he's really good. He's got the speed. He's got the consistency. He obviously put in a lot of work this offseason. If he can just stay off the injury train, which he's suffered from for years in amateurs, and he had some over the summer. He wasn't able to be in all the motocross races, but if he can avoid the injury bug, I feel like Hammaker we have a clear top 3. Let's say it that way. These 3 are far and away the best for after 2 rounds. And the other guys have a bit of a gap. Like, there's a decent sized gap, in my opinion, between our top 3 and 4th place right now. Now, one of my riders I was very happy to see do better this weekend was Nate Thrasher, Christian Craig's teammate, who was a rookie last year. And we all saw, him and Jarrett Fry came in as rookies on the technically West Coast last year. And both of them weren't super. They were fighting just to get into the top 10 almost every round to start the year. And it wasn't looking like either of them was going to stay on the team, because we know Bobby Reagan doesn't accept stuff like that on his team. It's not the way he rolls. And we know he just expects more. So we thought both of them would go off. But then when we got to the Atlanta Speedways, Nate Thrasher won 2 of the 3 races, which, as a rookie, that's really good. But that track was weird, and it makes you wonder if those were a little fluky. Obviously, he has a lot of talent. You have to have a ton of talent to win a supercross race. But that doesn't mean just because you've won those 2, you are, a title contender guy. You're not necessarily going to be one of those top-tier guys. So it's weird. I'm going to get into it. I want to make a video going up about the future of star racing, because it's looking weird for the next couple of years coming up. I'll get into that. That's a whole different topic. Joe Shimoda, let's talk about him. Round 1 wasn't great for Joe, but it was a little understandable because he hit the gate. So, yeah, he got a bad start, worked his way up, had a couple of mistakes, but he was still in the top 10. Whatever. One bad round, you can throw it away. But then Oakland comes around, and Joe just keeps making these mistakes, which is not something we've seen from Joe Shimoda in the past. Joe has typically been the consistent guy that gets lots of points and finishes high in the standings, but he's not the fastest guy ever. Whereas I feel like this weekend, Joe showed a lot of speed, and he was running up near the top to begin the main event. He was battling with Hammaker and Lawrence and all those guys. And then he makes these mistakes, or in the whoops, which we're getting a lot of guys for, mind you, but he almost completes a front flip through the whoops, which you can't be doing if you want to be a serious title contender. Yes, whoop mistakes happen. Obviously, the reigning champ Colt Nichols loses it in the whoops last week. I'll talk about that in a sec, but I don't know. Joe just... What happened from the last year? Did he give up too much consistency to get the speed? And where is that balance for Joe? Can he find a space where he is very fast, but he still has that consistency and can be a title contender? Is there a happy medium there that can happen for Joe? Right now it feels like he's put too much into the speed and he's lost some of that consistency. Obviously, we're only 2 rounds in. We'll see what happens going forward, but it's a little disappointing from Joe. I wanted to see more. I'm a big Joe fan. When he was back on Honda, and I don't know. I want to see more. Carson Mumford, one of my favorite riders, had a mistake in the whoops. Rode okay. I mean, it's hard to judge when he's on not necessarily factory equipment. I still think Carson's doing a lot better this year than he did last year. His teammate, on the other hand, of Dylan Schwartz, not so much. Terrible round 1. This round was okay. It was solid, but I don't know. From what we've seen from Dylan Schwartz outdoors, I feel like there's so much more talent, and we're just not seeing it on a supercross track. I'd feel weird not mentioning him. Vince Freeze rode really good. He battled out with guys like Garrett Marchbanks, who had not a superb night. Vince looked good. He's still getting good starts. He's a solid guy in the 250 class. He's doing a lot better than I expected before the season. He's one of my big jumpers. So if you don't know, I do a weekly power rankings for the 250 and 450 class. I did preseason, I did one after Anaheim, and now I did one after Oakland. If you haven't already seen that, I've posted on our Instagram, and I've done an article about it on like I said, mxnewsnow.wordpress.com. If you want to go read that, I think it's really interesting. Freeze has been one of the biggest jumpers. I had him fairly low before the season. I give my reasoning for why I brought him up and why I've put guys down. Go give that a read if If you haven't yet, it's in my opinion a pretty good article. Garrett Marchbanks was fast. He made a lot of mistakes, and it looked like he just tired out, and he was not putting up enough fight against a lot of those guys. He was letting guys like Shimoda and Freeze by, and Freeze, I guess. He had a little altercation with Freeze. But yeah, Marchbanks was a little disappointing. I didn't do a show after round 1. I'm just kind of getting into this whole Moto Media thing. So if you didn't see Colt Nichols, the reigning East Coast champ from last year, if you can call them Coast last year, they were all on the East, but Nichols went down in the whoops in his heat race. He broke both arms, potentially his hip, and he's had to get skin grafts. I saw photos of it today, and that is something I never want to go through. Those look gross and painful. I wouldn't, after seeing photos like that, I would never wish that on my worst enemy. It just looks terrible. I've talked a bit about the 250 class, but I have to talk about probably one of the biggest storylines that there's been. Jared Stanky, otherwise known as Stank Dog. I know that, yeah. If you know him, you know him. You know why he's called that. Stank Dog is the only rider out there riding a 125 two-stroke motorcycle. Now, this is not something a lot of people do. Obviously, this is the 250 class for a reason, but 125s are legal in the class. Stank Dog made a main event on a 125 two-stroke for the first time since 2007. That's 15 years since someone has done what Stank Dog did, and it was amazing. He wasn't able to finish the main. I'm pretty sure from what I read, the bike itself blew up, but whatever. He was just happy to be in the main event. But he couldn't just be happy with the main event. He went on social that night and made he added to his story, if you know what that is, on Instagram. Stank Dog went and started calling some media guys, Steve Mathis, Chris Kiefer, and Jason Thomas. He started calling them some very mean names and making just mean comments about them, as if to say, like they all said he couldn't do it. But that doesn't make sense, because I've listened to all the shows, and Steve even posted the clips where they've talked about Stank Dog. Chris Kiefer said, yeah, he doesn't think he can make the main because the bike. He never said that Jared was fat or lazy like Jared was Stank Dog was trying to claim. And Steve himself says he thinks once the field thins out a little bit, Stank Dog could have made it. Now, he did it earlier than Steve would have thought. But Steve still said he think he could make it. So I don't understand where this anger and aggression was coming from Stank Dog. It just felt really unnecessary and kind of I don't know, I think it gives a bad image of some of the guys in the sport, because Stank Dog, yeah, he's a man of the people, you can say. He rides the two-stroke, he's got the long hair, but is that really the image we want going forward? Is that what's going to bring people into the sport, is people like that? I don't believe so, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's what the sport needs. I'd love to, I don't know. There is no right answer, I feel like, but it really sat with me wrong, and it made me not like Stank Dog quite as much as I used to. Like, I was a fan, because the 125 thing is really cool. It's cool to see that bike doing well, but I don't know, his personality and things like that just don't sit quite right with me. With that said, let's get into the 450 class for Oakland. We had a very surprise winner, someone I didn't think was going to win. I thought he was going to be, the second-tier rider on his team. But Jason Anderson, after leaving Rockstar Energy Husqvarna, made his way over to Monster Energy Kawasaki. And at round 2, Jason Anderson wins the main event, which is crazy to me, because I didn't have him pegged for a win all year, let alone round 2 on a new bike. It's very cool, and we haven't seen Jason win a race in, I want to say it was 47 races. In 2018, the year he won his title, he hasn't won since. He didn't put that Husqvarna on top step of the podium since his title year. And a lot of people just, wrote it off as, he got his title, he was happy, and he doesn't want to win anymore. He's just happy being out there. He got what he came to do, which, if you know Jason's personality type, it kind of makes sense. But I've never fully believed that, because I don't think as a racer, a true racer, you can ever not really want to win. Yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion. Second place was Aaron Plessinger, who looked really good after a very bad A1. He was a faller in my power rankings after the first round, but he's come back up in round 2. He got second place. It was great. Eli Tomac looked really good on his Yamaha. He won his heat race, which is his first on the new bike, and he was 4th in the main event. It was a solid night for Tomac. I think a lot better than round 1. Round 1, it felt like getting that 6th place was a lot of just situational. Like it didn't feel like he really worked for it, and not work for it, I guess, but he got a position better than he rode, I think, at round 1, and he felt a lot better at round 2 here. He felt like he had more speed. He looked more comfortable on the bike, so a much better finish for Tomac, better ride for Tomac. I think he can get a win this year, at least one, and I think he'll be a title threat. He's not too far out. The 2 Honda guys were pretty meh this weekend. Ken Roczen, he had a crash early in the main, so it kind of made some sense. He finished outside the top 10, and he's outside the top 3 in points after winning round 1. Chase Sexton won his heat race, but was invisible in the main event. It just wasn't very good. So, I don't think this. It's not that the track didn't work for the bike, because they did win the heat race and qualified somewhat decently. I don't know. I don't know what happened to the Honda guys there. Obviously, I expect a big bounce back from them at round 3 in San Diego. It'll probably be a lot better for them. Cooper Webb was okay. I don't know. He had one of those early season rides we see from Cooper Webb where, it's like, this is the championship guy. This is supposed to be a contender. He got solid points. It was meh. Dylan Ferrandis looked better than round 1, I felt. He looked like he wasn't. At round 1, he was pushing the issue a lot, and he made a lot of mistakes because of it. Whereas I felt like he was still going fast this weekend, but he knew not to push it to that edge, because last thing he needs is to finish outside the top 10 again. So he got around Webb, he got around guys like that. It was better. Justin Barcia is the only rider this year now to finish on the podium 2 times. Like, he's finished on the podium at both rounds, and because of it, he will have the points lead. He hasn't been the fastest guy, but he's been the most consistent. He finishes 3rd at round 1 and 3rd at round 2. So Justin Barcia is your current points leader, not by a lot. Second place is tied between Anderson and Webb. I want to say they're 3 points behind, but it looks like it's going to be a closer championship, because inconsistency looks like it's becoming a bigger factor. Like I said, we'll see a gas with a red plate for the 2nd year in a row, which that technically means they've never gone a year without a red plate in Supercross 450. It's just kind of cool. I'd like to see if that trend can keep going and how many years they can streak it. But Barcia had it after round 1 last year. Now after round 2 this year, he's got it again. The last guy I really want to talk about for the main event, I'm going to get into that LCQ later. It's a whole big thing, so make sure you stick around for that. But I want to talk about Adam Cianciarulo, because I feel like he's making a mistake. Adam is not in a physical state where I think he can push for wins. Like, he's got the speed, don't get me wrong. But you see him out there, and after a few laps, you can definitely tell that shoulder is hurting so much. Like, he's just falling down the order, lap by lap. He can't stay strong enough in the main. And I know what that's like. I've had the injury he had. I tore my AC joint during a dirt biking accident, and it hurts, man. Like, it really hurts. There's no way around that. It's just so hard to get over, too. It took me quite a while. I was in a sling for a long time. And I couldn't imagine trying to ride with that, because you start moving it, and after even a couple minutes of moving, the pain just brings you down, and there's nothing you can do. And I think he's doing a disservice to himself by trying to ride through this. What is he truly gaining by trying to ride? He's not getting the points. He's not getting the wins. Sure, his bike is out there, and he's missed a lot of races the last couple of years. I get that. But healing up is honestly going to be the best thing for him. I mean, even if he comes back pretty late in the season and has a solid motocross season. We saw him get 2nd 2 years ago overall. He can push for a moto champion. Don't push this shoulder too hard. We've seen guys make that mistake before, and it's really hard to see a guy go through that. So I guess that kind of covers the Supercross topic. I'd like to get into a couple other news things that have happened, mostly Canadian motocross, actually. It was announced today on his Instagram that Tanner Ward, the number 18 up here in Canada, will be leaving GDR Honda, which is arguably the best team in Canada right now. They last year had Dylan Wright, Ryder McNabb, who was 15-16 and led the championship at times. Tanner Ward himself led the championship, and Dylan Wright won the championship. Like, GDR Honda is the team to be on in Canada right now. Honda's going to run 2 riders next year with McNabb, obviously, and Dylan Wright again. But it's not known quite yet where Tanner Ward is going to go. The most logical explanation would be he's going to go to Kawasaki on a 450 ride, as Marshall Welton will be doing the full Supercross East Coast, and it doesn't look like he's going back to that team. So I feel like Tanner Ward's going to kind of be their 450 guy going forward, which is good for Tanner. He'll be the sole focus of the team. He doesn't got 2 guys that are arguably better. And I feel like it is a good opportunity, but it's I don't know. It had to have been a tough decision for him, because leaving the best team in Canada to go to, I don't know, the 3rd team probably. Yeah, I'd say 3rd best team. Marshall Welton did well on that team last year, so I can't write him off too much, but it's just, I would have liked to see him stick with the Honda guys. I know he has a lot of talent. It wasn't realized at KTM, but what else can you do, I guess? I don't know. It'll be nice to see him as the main focus. Like I said, Marshall Welton will be doing the full East Coast Supercross series this year, which will be cool to see. I don't know what he's going to do after Supercross. Like, he could come up to Canada, and I'm sure he could find a ride. He finished high up in the standings last year. My best bet for Welton would be, I don't know, I could see Sean Moffenbauer retiring before the season starts, which would leave a spot open at MX101 Yamaha, which could be a good fit for Marshall Welton. His buddy Phil Nicoletti used to ride there. I'm sure they've got Well, he didn't ride there, but he rode for Yamaha in Canada. There's a lot of people that kind of stayed there. So yeah, I don't know. I could see Welton going to the MX101 team next year. They lost Keelan Meston to retirement, and it looks like they might lose Moffenbauer too. So Welton could probably fill that spot. And honestly, I think Welton is an upgrade over Moffenbauer. I don't think that's crazy to say. He's higher in the standings, and he's younger, so I think that's a better hire for MX101 if that does happen. Obviously, it hasn't yet. This is all speculation, but if you don't follow Canadian Moto, I highly recommend you do. It is very interesting. It is very great racing. Yeah, give it a check. Like, go check it out. It's really cool. Some sadder news for Canadians, I guess. Chris Kiefer reported online that he witnessed Jess Pettis, kind of Canada's one of the best. Dylan Wright and Jess Pettis are kind of really close in skill and speed. And Jess was going to ride the 250 East Coast this year for Thor Factory Canada KTM, which he did. He was going to be a 250 rider. He would have been on the same coast as Voland. It would have been cool to see, but for the 3rd year in a row, Jess Pettis has a big injury before the season even starts. Now, I don't know the full extent of it. From what we've heard, potentially it's a compound break in the arms. And this is coming from Chris Kiefer, which is a fairly reliable source. They've seen him get ambulanced out. It's not ideal to see Jess get hurt again. And honestly, this has happened 3 years in a row, and I don't see KTM Canada sending him back to Supercross again. I think they see this as Jess keeps getting hurt when we send him down there. We still need him as our guy in Canada. Why are we taking this risk anymore? Jess obviously is young and has a shot down there in the States. But is it worth the risk for KTM Canada? I don't think so. So Jess could choose to leave KTM Canada, but I don't see him doing that because, I mean, he's probably making decent money riding up in Canada. So yeah, it's not what I wanted to see. I was very excited to see him. There's going to be a few Canadian guys. Obviously, Cole Thompson is on the West Coast this year, and we've seen him make the mains and be great on a privateer Yamaha. Bike he went and got himself. It would have been nice to see Jess Pettis do well. Now, I alluded to it a little bit ago. I want to get into the 450 LCQ from Oakland because what a ride that was. Now, if you don't know, me and my family are big fans of Ryan Brees. We saw him at all the arena crosses we used to go to in Kalispell, and me and my father actually got to work on his bike after he had an event happen where stuff broke, and we actually got to help him work. It was really cool. He's a super nice guy, but you wouldn't know it from what happened on the track. Brees looked, I don't even know how to describe it. So, Brees is in 4th, which is a transfer position into the main. And in 3rd place is Adam Enticknap, or the 7 Deuce Deuce, as a lot of people know him, on the HEP Suzuki. And Brees decides to power slide into Adam, taking Adam out and sending him into the bales, essentially eliminating him from main event contention. Which you never want to do to somebody, because you're all out there trying to... And both of them were in a transfer position, which is the craziest thing to me. But the thing is, it doesn't end there. After a couple laps, and it's really ironic that Ryan Brees catches up and is about to lap Adam Enticknap, and as he comes out of a corner to hit a double, he comes up a little short, and he crashes hard. And he gets up, but he's lost. He's now down to 6th place. So he's got to pass 5th and 4th to get into the main. Now, the way the track worked was there was a whoop section, a 180 corner, and then the finish line. The 2 riders ahead of him were Cross, or Kroos, however you want to say it. I say Cross, and Gardner. They were in the whoops, and Brees knew he had more whoop speed than them. But the problem was he has to stop after the whoops. So Brees sees these two go side by side. They're battling for a transfer position, and Ryan Brees decides to go full charge into the whoop section and just hope he can use those two as a bank and take them both in that final corner. And he's got the speed to do it. Like, he's getting the run. But with about 4 whoops to go, his bike skids out to the side and then the other side and then launches out from under him as he barrel rolls into the corner. His bike goes over the berm. It was a crazy scene and a crazy ending to the LCQ, which is not uncommon. We've seen it a lot. But it was just such a crazy race to see. It sucks to see Brees miss out on a main event, but he rode really hard. Now, we learned later that his brakes were messed up, so he didn't have back brakes, which can kind of lead into why he looks so sketchy at times. But I don't know. The move on Adam just makes no sense to me because both were in a transfer position. With that, this was my first podcast. It's not super long. I'm still learning how to do all this. This has been the first episode of the MX News Now podcast. I want to thank everyone who came in to listen and remind you to check us out on Instagram at MX_news_now. Twitter at the same handle. Check out our YouTube, MX News Now, and check out our website for all the latest articles, and you'll find links to all our socials, even links to the podcast, obviously. You can sign up, keep up to date with everything we post. That's going to be at mxnewsnow.wordpress.com. That's mxnewsnow.wordpress.com. Thanks again, everyone, for coming tonight. Well, not coming, but listening. This is a new experience for me, and I'd like to big shout out to all those that support us on whatever. It keeps me motivated, and it gives me a reason to do all this, and I want to say thank you. Until next time, that's me signing out.